Thanks for checking out this Web Extra. We didn't have time to bring you all of our panel discussion on this week's For the Record. Let's pick it up with some perspective of last week's election results. All right, let's get back to our conversation now. This was election week across the country. Iowa held elections for cities and school boards, nothing in Illinois, though other states with gubernatorial races on the ballot. Republicans certainly rejoice after Glenn Youngkin beat Democrat Terry McAuliffe to be Virginia's next governor. A Republican almost pulled off an upset in New Jersey's race, and voters in Minneapolis rejected a proposal to defund the police. So what stage does this set for next year's midterms? Democrats might be nervous. Carl, how much pressure does it put on Democrats to pass their big domestic spending plan? Are they at risk of being the do-nothing party?
Well, no, I don't think they'll ever be at risk of being the do-nothing party, Jim, but they do need to get something done. There isn't any question about that. And this past due that goes on interminably with Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema has just got to come to an end. Give the people what they want. They elected the Biden administration based on the Build Back Better and on the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and let's just get it done. This eternal stall by Senator Manchin is just it's just ridiculous.
David, you've been on this program in the past, and you saw when Democrats looked like they were going to gain the upper hand a few years back, but now it looks like it's the pendulum swinging the other way, don't you think?
Well, under current conditions, yes, but I don't know that these conditions are going to continue until next year. But I think that Carl's reading the wrong message. The message from Virginia was, if you watched and all the exit polling, was they're concerned about inflation. They're concerned about the cost of this so-called Build Back Better bill. They don't want 3.5 or 1.75 trillion dollars pumped into the economy now because they know it's going to lead to higher inflation, more store shelves empty, and less people employed. It's just, they realize this, they're opposed to it. I think the last poll I saw was 62% are opposed to the Build Back Better plan. I don't know that.
I'd have to disagree, David. I think that first of all, most of the inflation that we're experiencing right now preceded the Biden administration and was generated by the overly generous multi-trillion-dollar tax cuts that the Trump administration and the Republican Senate enacted. The Republicans are using the same playbook they've used year after year, the Karl Rove concept of get a ginned-up emotional issue. Years ago, it was gay marriage. This year, it seems to be critical race theory, which is not taught in schools, but the whole idea of parents are now going to dictate school curricula, take it away from the professionals and the experienced educators. If you want to do that, homeschool your child. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. But schools need to be run by people who are educators, who are trained in education with adopted curricula, all of which is publicly available. So this ginned-up concept of critical race theory.
Hold one second, David. We'll let you get in. All right, if you're done, Carl,
go ahead, David.
Well, he butted in on me, so I think I'm going to butt in on
No, actually, I was just going to let him finish and let you go, David. Absolutely.
Having parents engaged in what their children are teaching that's the foundation of our educational system. That's why we have parents involved in teacher-parent conferences. Parents need to be involved. Parents need to be involved more in their children's education. They'll find out what it is that's being taught, what it is they may disagree with. And critical race theory, you say it's not being taught, but it is. The parents in Loudoun County saw it. It was happening. It was happening in their living rooms when kids were remote learning from home. So, although that's not the issue that I want to dwell on, I'm dwelling on the economic issue. Inflation was tamed throughout the Trump administration. And maybe the economy could absorb the first pandemic bill back in April of 2020, that back when the pandemic was in full swing. We did not need the second one that took place in January, that Pelosi delayed until December. I wish she would have delayed it all the way. But Trump wanted another one, and then Biden wanted one, and they both got them, and they both ginned up the economy when the economy was running at full capacity. It was just insane. Manson was correct, and I know Manson's a Democrat, but thankfully he's there putting a stop to some of this stuff, and Sinema's starting to talk about the raise in taxes, what that's going to do to the economy, and it's going to raise the tax on all of us. We're already paying the tax on higher food prices, on higher gasoline prices. Gasoline prices are a function of the supply that Biden cut off when he got rid of all those oil leases and drilling leases, stops the supply, constrains the supply, promises higher taxes. What's that going to do to the supply? The supply is going to go down. And when supply goes down, price goes up. So,
well, oil is one of those weird things.
The federal government is leading the charge on rampant hyperinflation. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen.
No, David, the fact that you say that doesn't necessarily make it true. The Federal Reserve is denying that. All major economists are stating that that is not taking place. Once again, I think that your appeal is to emotional reactions and fear, and it's just not borne out by facts. I'm sorry.
You've been to the grocery store? You've been to the gas pump?
Of course.
Look at the prices at the grocery store and the gas pump. They're higher.
Well,
gas, especially gasoline's up $1
but gas is
a year ago.
Oil companies are gouging, David. That's really what's going on.
They're not gouging. You've constrained the supply.
It's a case of we can get more, we'll take more.
Well, and that's
You think the moral compass of ExxonMobil and the rest of them is set to true north? I don't think so.
And a lot of the oil is really in the hands of OPEC too. But I just want to get back to Virginia's race really quickly because, David, you both brought up different issues related to Virginia, but wasn't it also coming down to just the likability of the candidate? Like Terry McAuliffe might not have just been a very likable candidate at this point. He's been around the block a few times, and he made a pretty big blunder when he said about education that parents had no business being in it, Carl.
I don't think I can argue with that, Jim. You're right. Terry McAuliffe has been around the block a few times, and I just don't think he generated the enthusiasm that he should have, certainly not the enthusiasm that President Biden generated in the state of Virginia. And Youngkin was a very clever candidate. You know, he held Trump at arm's length and wouldn't let him in the state, didn't want to campaign with him, dissed him as best he could, and, you know, people went along with it.
You think
that's to his credit. That's to his credit.
Well, there you go.
That's it.
Well, I'm not saying it's not. Sure, that's what politicians do.
Agreement. We're going to end on that note, guys. Agreement. Thank you both. Carl Romberg, David Mills. Appreciate your time as always.
Thanks, David.
Guys.